Hello, welcome to RC Video Reviews. Today we're taking a look at the 80mm Dassault Rafale from FMS. Before we get into the content, I need to let you know this video is sponsored by FMS, who sent me the Rafale for review. And I also need to let you know that this video is the first in a series of 5 to celebrate Independence Day in the United States for 2023. FMS is sponsoring a little bit of an event. We're gonna have 4 different videos, a couple of unboxes, a couple flights, and then we're gonna do a live stream where I'll have some giveaways for you. So make sure you follow this series sponsored by FMS so you can see what's going on with these planes in terms of the first look and the flight videos. And you can also get on the live stream and make yourself eligible to win free prizes, also sponsored by FMS. I'll have links in the description leading you back to FMS for an affiliate purchase on the Rafale if you'd like to get one for yourself. With that out of the way, let's get started. I normally don't perform an actual unbox on camera, and I'm not going to do it this time, but I did want to give you a look at the packaging to give you an idea of the steps FMS takes to ensure your plane arrives in good condition. So there are nice cross braces over the wings. Everything is separated by styrofoam. FMS has done their part to make sure that your plane arrives in the same condition it left the factory. Of course, you can't always guarantee these things, but good on FMS for making the effort on packaging. That was the first layer, and here's the second layer. Underneath the first layer, which has the wings, they put in the fuselage and some drop tanks and a couple of other pieces, including your vertical stabilizer and nose cone and a little bit of armament. Very nicely done on FMS's part. Everything is well separated. You can see the fuselage is completely surrounded by styrofoam, and again, packaging, they've taken the appropriate steps. I don't think it can be done really any better than this. All right, with the box out of the way, let's get into the first look. All I can say is I hope this plane flies as good as it looks. I have to tell you, when I took it out of the box, it kind of took my breath away. It looks really cool. There's a lot of detail in here, and the color scheme, while it's not something I probably would have picked for the colors, it actually works really well together. The blue and gold, obviously, as a US Navy guy, I kind of like that, but there's also this citrus yellow on the top, and it's unusual, but I do kind of like the way it looks. I'm impressed with it. And if you look up front, you can see all kinds of scale details, from the graphics and decals to the winglets to the canards. These canards look like they're fully functional. You've got quick servo connects for the wings, a couple of screws to put the wings on, a couple of screws for the vertical stabilizer, and even the canopy has a pilot with a cockpit. We're gonna cover all of it. Let's start out with the fuselage, because why not? The first thing that got my attention is the cockpit. I'll take that off in just a minute and we'll look at it. But look at all the scale details on the top. They've got inlays, they've got antennas, very nice graphics, panel lines, navigation lights, some kind of exhaust outlet, and the graphics are just amazing. The graphics look really, really cool. In terms of power, it's a 3280 in-runner motor paired up with an 80mm EDF. It has a 100 amp ESC, and it requires a 6S5000 battery. I know on these twin outlet setups, the motors sound really good in flight, and I expect the Rafale will as well. Up front, there's a couple of posts that stick out of the side. Those are for the canards, and I'm convinced that they're fully functional because they ride on bearings. So it definitely looks like they move. I think that's gonna be really neat. And there's a look at the profile head-on. One thing I really liked about that 64mm Rafale is just how aggressive it looks, and I'm sure this one's gonna look just as good. So very cool head-on look. On the bottom, this one has retracts, and you can see there's nice gear doors there for the mains, and there's a gear door for the nose. So very nice, clean undercarriage, which will keep everything nice and slippery in the air. I don't see any issues at all along the bottom. And then on the back, you do have access to the EDF unit and the motor if you need to, with a couple of screws. The retracts, if you prang those in, there's a couple of screws holding those in, so it looks like that would be an easy replacement. And of course, there's a couple of plastic inserts, and that'll be for the drop tank mount. Yeah, I definitely think this is one of the coolest looking fuselages out there, man. It's very aggressive looking, and I really like it a lot. And the color scheme, yep, I probably wouldn't have picked yellow for myself, but I'm kind of glad they sent it because I think it looks really cool. I told you we'd take a look at the cockpit. Inside there's your fighter pilot. Nice detail in there. I'll try and get this on camera, but there is some marking on the dashboard inside. So hopefully you can see the dashboard with the graphics in there. Very nice little scale detail. Underneath the cockpit, there's very easy access to the wires for the controls. They include an EC5 connector. In my case, I'll have to chop that off and switch to XT90 because that's what I use. And the battery tray is already equipped with Velcro and a Velcro strap to hold it down. And then there's plenty of room up front if you want to put your receiver up there or other equipment as necessary. So plenty of room up front to get your gear set up, no problems. On the back of the cockpit is a little plastic piece, and what that allows you to do is slide the tongue up front, and I do like that they have a tongue up front to latch that piece down, and then you set the canopy down and just give it a little push and it locks right into place. Very handy. Next up are the wings, and there's a lot to like about this wing. First up, the graphics. I kind of dig that paw print. I think it's cool. On the wingtip, there's a plastic pod that has an embedded navigation light, and it also has the inserts to connect your armaments. And you are going to want to connect the armaments on this one because without them, it's going to look a little bit unfinished. So you simply put that armament on and just slide it into place like that. In terms of the control surfaces, I really like what they did here as well. So on the outside where the ailerons are, there's a little plastic cover covering the horn. And if you look at the hinges, they are mechanical. They're not EPO hinges, and I think that's really smart. The hinge gap is also rounded, so there is no gap. It's completely sealed. So I really like the mechanical hinges inside the hinge line, and it definitely gives the plane a more upscale look than the more basic options. So good job on that, FMS. Mechanical hinges on these bigger planes, totally worth it. And then I talked a little bit earlier on the fuselage. There is a quick connector for the servo. So that connector plugs into the airframe fuselage right here, and all your controls will work. All you have to do is wire it up on the inside to your receiver. So very simple to build and take apart at the field if you need to be able to take the wings off for transport. 2 screws, wing pops off, you're done. You don't even have to connect a wire. Very well done. And here's a look at the starboard wing. No issues here, same arrangement, same mechanical setup. I'll just give you a look at the leading edge so you can check and make sure it's nice and straight. Just like I like to do, I look for warp and washout. I don't really see any there. I think everything looks very clean. No issues there at all. The trailing edges are fine. They're probably a 1/4 inch thick. That's one area on these builds I think they could do a little bit of work. Maybe a plastic piece to kind of bring that down to a thin trailing edge. That would be a nice touch. One thing I did just notice, on the flaps they use a ball link connector, and on the ailerons they're using a Z-bend. I don't really know if that's going to have a performance impact or not. I doubt it, but I'm just pointing it out so you're aware. There are also a couple of plastic inserts for armaments and drop tanks, and just to put those in, there's a little connector on these armaments. You simply put those in the slot, give it a little bit of pressure and slide it in, and it's locked into place. So very simple to add the armaments or take them off. So if you want a clean configuration and you don't want the extra drag, you can take the armaments off. If you want to have it look kind of scale and cool and aggressive looking with the armaments on, forego maybe a little bit of flight time, you can leave the armaments on. Very nicely done. I don't have any issues with what I see on the wing. And there's a look at the vertical stabilizer. I kind of like the Tiger. I think it's really cool. And there's the leading edge, so straight, no problems there. I don't see any warps or bends, so it looks nice and clean. And for the control links, we've got a ball link connector and a Z-bend on the servo arm, and there's the servo wire for the rudder that will plug into the extension that's already in the fuselage. In terms of the trailing edge, there's a look, and no problems there. Everything looks straight, no warps, no bends. Very nice job. Well done. Here's a look at the canards. There's a little hole there to put it on the post on the airframe. And then a little screw will go in from the bottom to lock it onto that shaft. So again, they'll be articulating canards. That's going to be really cool, I think. The nose cone is magnetized and keyed on the bottom, so all you have to do to put it on the plane is just put it on the nose and let her go. The magnet takes care of the rest. They also include an in-flight refueling nozzle, and it uses the same key mechanism as your armament. So to install it, you just find out where it goes on the airframe, you put it in that little key, press down, and then slide it back, and that latches right into place, and there you go. You've got your in-flight refueling nozzle ready for action. Next up is the wing spar, and that goes right into the wing spar tube. You just slide that into place on the airframe, and that'll push through to the other side. And from there, it's very easy to add the wings. Remember, only 2 screws, one in the front, one in the back. With the wing installed, you just need a 2mm hex driver, drop the screw in through the hole, and just screw her in. Adding the canards is very simple. They supply grub screws. Get them started in the hole on the bottom of the canard. Just get it set, and then locate the shaft where the canard goes, slide it on, and the shaft does have a flat spot, so slide your canard on, Make sure it's up close to the fuselage, but not rubbing. You don't want it to rub when it moves. And then just cinch that grub screw down. And then when you're done, it shouldn't rotate and there shouldn't be any lateral slop on that shaft. It should not move. It's on there, locked in nice and tight. And that's all you've got to do to put this plane together. There's about 8 screws, 2 on each wing, 2 on the vertical stabilizer, and 1 on each canard, and that's it. Here's a quick look at the drop tanks. They've got the Tiger Instinct NTM 2013 in Orlando. I wasn't here for that, but Orlando, that's kind of cool. Cool little script. And then here's the other drop tank with the same inscription. And here's the center drop tank, which just says Tiger Instinct. The manual's a little bit thick, but that's because there's several languages in here. The English section, there's not a whole lot. They talk a little bit about the rates and the throws, how to program the ESC, a little bit of troubleshooting information. So basics, just because there's just not a whole lot in assembling this plane. And then after the English section, there's a German section, a French section, and the Chinese section. And FMS, little tip, this is a French-built plane. They should have probably got first billing in the manual. There should have been French up front. Anyway, manual's fine. You don't really need much if you've ever put together any kind of airplane. This is just so easy to do. You just don't need a lot of help. That wraps up my first look at the Dassault Rafale. Thanks to FMS for sending this plane out for review. I will be getting this to the field just as fast as I can. I can't wait to fly it. I think it's going to fly fantastic. If you like this kind of content, make sure you smash that thumbs up button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know when new videos hit the channel. YouTube should recommend another video for you right about now. That's all I've got for today. Take it easy and go fly something.